Did I just click on something? Let's take a look. Alrighty. Is this all working? Let's find out. Alrighty, got that all up and running. Oh, good. Perfect, got that up. Okay. Welcome everyone. Hello. Getting ready to start on today's stream. I have been hecka busy these past few weeks. I have not been able to sit down and get any content produced. I've got a bunch of videos I've got recorded, but I haven't edited yet. And spoiler, editing takes way longer than recording something. It could be a 10-minute video, and I could spend maybe like 15-20 minutes recording it, but then editing, takes forever. You gotta make the thumbnail, gotta upload it. So time consuming. Hopefully I can get back to that. But in the little snippets of free time that I've had, I've been able to work on my written material, which I want to show off some more of today. Because this week, I am going to be putting out playtests for all of my material. I want people to get eyes on my stuff so they can critique me. I want to know what people like, what people don't like, and I also want feedback on various things like presentation style. So hopefully I'll be getting all that out this week. But yeah, I mean, I think I should be free. I'm looking at my calendar right now. I don't think I've got too much going on in the future here. But we shall see. But other than that, welcome. How's y'all's lives been? Are y'all getting some good gaming in? Some good tabletop role playing in? Because I unfortunately have not been able to get any tabletop role playing in whatsoever. Which is odd because normally I host an average of like anywhere between 3 to 5 sessions a week, and in the past week I haven't ran any. It's so weird. It's so peculiar. Alrighty. Oh. What was I gonna work on? I was working on something else. It sucks like when you step away from like writing on a big project and you step back in, then you're like, oh my god, wait a second, what's going on? What do I have going on here? I know this looks terribly messy now I'm actually looking at this. Goodness gracious. Been really sick. The flu has wrecked my family the last 4 weeks. The things keep yo-yoing. Ugh, that sounds terrible. I've heard that that there's this big nasty flu floating around, and I'm sure as a teacher, that's hitting you for sure, because all those snot-nosed kids running around spreading all their funkiness. How's it going, David? How is it hanging? Yeah, I thankfully have. I avoided people that had the flu, thankfully. But I don't know how long I can avoid that forever. Missed gaming with you and the crew. Hope Torfin and the Barbs are still doing okay in Little Hope. They are. They are. Some barbarians have died, but that's what barbarians do. They die, right? But no, Little Hope is still going strong. It's under management. But that being said, several people have started up their own strongholds now. So there's that. We've got a Oxy the Halfling has started a stronghold. We've got Gabe has started his Ranger domain. We've got Aldrich the Elf has started up his Elven fastness. And then also, funnily enough, Mingdus the Bard started up his place, but then immediately after got Mingdus the Bard is now totally what do you call that thing? He's both transformed and taken over by he's possessed. So immediately Mingdus Dr. Klopp, the player, lost Mingdus the Bard, and then he took over the next character, which was a level 7 cleric under his command, Nadina. And then Nadina, she pulled from the deck of many things, and then she got transported away into a dungeon somewhere. So in the span of one session, he lost 2 of his best characters. It was pretty funny. And the Vamps get him? No. The Vamps, ultimately, there's a truce amongst everyone. The vampires are in control of the town, ultimately. That's the end of the story. No one can compete against them, but yeah. That's the end of the story. But like I said, I unfortunately have not been able to run any games recently because I just got swamped. The last session I ran was January 28th. I haven't ran a session in a month because of my freaking stupid life getting in the way. Like this whole month I have had like maybe 3 or 4 days of freedom, and I didn't know that I was going to have freedom until the day of. So I couldn't really plan anything. So yeah, so I'm hoping that, but I do know for a fact that next month I'll have a huge swath of free time, so I'll be running a bunch of games then. Well, excited to see what you've been doing with your vision of D&D. Yeah, so this here is my tabletop role-playing system called Make Believe. It is a fairy tale themed TTRPG. Something to note is if you compared this one to Dolmenwood, Dolmenwood is essentially a fairy tale rendition of Old School Essentials. This one, I wanted there to be a bit more of a bridge gap in between modern and old school. So in this system, you have more to you. So like, the stats are the same, or relatively the same. 17 and 18 are now the plus 3s and all that. But ultimately with this system, alignment matters. Your alignment changes up fundamentally what your spells can do and what features you have on your character sheet. You got a bit more in regards of like what you can do with character creation. There's a whole bunch of things going on with character creation. You have your origin, which is your race. You've got your background. You've got a certain fate, and that gives you some fun special abilities. Then you roll up your birthday, and your birthday gives you some fun things. And then the classes. So ultimately the classes are the thing that really define this game, that I want to separate it from being just, an OSC clone. While the HP is relatively low in the system, that is mitigated, and mind you, something important to note about every tabletop role-playing game system I'm ever going to make is I'm getting rid of Constitution as a score. I've ultimately analyzed a bunch of tabletop role-playing games, and I feel in my heart of hearts, my soul of souls, that Constitution is genuinely a bad statistic for any game, because it's ultimately too good not to have more often than not, and also very importantly, you are uber punished for not having it, and that limits the design space, and it limits the creativity of players, and I feel like overall Constitution is just a bad score overall. So there's no Constitution in this system. So HP is on the lower side. But to mitigate that, you have armor, and armor can give you a damage reduction. So there's that. And there's a whole bunch of other things that can mitigate that as well. But ultimately, this system is I want to say it's like a 2.5 edition of D&D, if anything. It's definitely got a lot going on. Specifically looking at this beast class, for example. This class has a lot going on with it in regards of it's not just the fighter where you get to use all the weapons and armor, right? Like you got a bunch of options. You got a bunch of tools. You have a bunch of ways you can play your character. And that's ultimately what I want in a system of this caliber anyway, is I want players to have choices. I want players to feel like their choices are impactful. And I want them to have variety when you pick this game up again and again. Even if you were to, let's say, play the Beast class twice, depending on your alignment, your character will have different abilities. Depending on your choices, you're going to have different ways to play a character. And also, very importantly, is with the system, I'm introducing a bunch of classes anyway, so there'll hopefully be a bunch of variety therein. So, like, another fun class of mine here is the Jester. The Jester is a class that does a whole bunch of tomfoolery and buffoonery and things like that. Also, something very important to note is what this system is, all classes have a class resource of some repute. And some of them are a bit more impactful in the class than others. But, for example, like looking at the Jester here, you have the trick point system. Your trick tokens, I should say. And those you can use for various things. Like you can use them to fuel some of your abilities. But then when you compare that directly to all the way back to the Beast is a bit more active with their points. They start off with 7 and then constantly go up, but they're constantly using their Beast points throughout their character or throughout the adventuring day. So I wanted there to be like some unity in regards of your alignment matters for every class. Every class has class resources. Some get more than others because some natively do various things automatically, some don't. The spellcasters obviously have a whole bunch of spells anyway, so they usually get less. But their spells are also impacted by their alignment. I'll be getting to that momentarily. But I just wanted classes to stand out on their own. I really wanted them to not just be, oh hey, this is that class, but a little bit better. Like I wanted classes to truly stand out in their own regard. So taking a look here as I scroll through the various things here. Here we go. I actually needed to add this anyway. This is perfect. So, like the Enchanter class, for example. This Enchanter here has a spell called Whisper of Desire. And when you cast it, depending on your alignment, it does something. So if you are pure virtuous, the target feels a compulsion to help those in need. If you are virtuous, the target is inclined to assist the Enchanter. If you are balanced, which is neutral, the target follows a reasonable suggestion with no moral weight. If you're dark, the target is tempted to act in self-interest. And if you are wicked, the target feels an urge to betray or harm an ally. I really wanted your alignment to really dictate your character's actions, because I often feel like alignment doesn't matter if there is no mechanics tied behind it. If there is literally no mechanical input on alignment, then it doesn't matter, right? Like if you look at most people when they play modern D&D and modern TTRPGs anyway, they typically don't care about alignment anyway, because whether that be the moral ambiguity of certain actions, it doesn't want to be weighed, or because some people feel that you should have to play to a certain alignment, or because DMs are like force people to play a certain alignment, or whatever the case may be. Alignment usually doesn't matter. In the system, I wanted you to start off with a certain alignment score, depending on your choices during character creation, and then throughout the adventure, your alignment score is going to go up or down, and that will change your character. You could be a good character in the beginning, but because of certain various actions you do, maybe you plunge down into wickedness. And I think that's a fun growth of a character is one seeing that change, not only reflected on the character sheet in regards of its alignment, but also through the abilities that you possess and things that can happen to your character, because maybe someone's got an ability that does good, like does a bunch of damage against wicked characters, and that didn't hurt you in the beginning, but now that you are wicked, it starts to affect you, right? Would health be based on the hit die of the class only then? Love that. Alignment-based features are really cool. DCC did that pretty good. Love adding that to spells. Yes, so first off, health is purely based on the class and class alone. However, during character creation, there are several things that can give you a plus, like either 1 or 2 to HP. And that's the end of story. And mind you, that's not plus 1 or 2 HP for every single level. That's just like right in the beginning, you get like plus 1, plus 2 HP. I want the numbers to be small and manageable. The numbers are tiny. The numbers are, like, I don't want the HP inflation that modern systems have, because I just don't want to deal with it. So the numbers are going to be small, but to mitigate that, you also have the armor, which mitigates damage natively. So if you are the fighter and you're wearing heavy armor, you take some damage, boom. You were supposed to take 4 damage. Oh, hey, guess what? You only take, 2 damage, right? Hey, no fun, making a Dragonheim DM's guide as we speak in honor of yours. Any tips you'd have for making them? How's it going, McCloyf? Yeah, I remember seeing your comment there on my, like why I'm done with D&D and all that. Ultimately, here's what I would say. 1, whenever you're going to make a, like if you want to purely just copy my rhythm in regards of whatever, go right for it. I'm totally down. You can, you're allowed to do whatever you want. What I will say though is, you need to, whenever you're covering a chapter or an area or whatever, you need to have it be concise. So if you look at my channel, for example, like I'm going to pull up my channel here. Let's take a look. Let me scroll all the way back to all those years ago when I used to make all these DMs guides. It's so weird seeing this huge gap in videos here. So sad. So you want when you're covering the videos or covering an area, you want it to be concise, right? Like, you want to not to just be an audiobook. Don't just sit there and read word for word, bar for bar, but definitely retread on ground so that people that aren't reading along get an understanding of what's going on. And also importantly is, if you're copying my style, I keep on saying copying. That might be derogatory if I'm not trying to say that's derogatory. It's just the easiest word to say. But if you are going for somewhere along my style, then explain what's going on. Explain how things connect to one another. And then, if there's enough allotted time and it makes sense and you wish to improve on the area, then give out your suggestions thereafter. But never just lead into it with, okay, so in this area, this whole place totally blows. We're ripping this whole thing apart. This scenario is garbage. We're going to make it my way. Like, don't go into it like that, because I feel like the people that are looking for these guides aren't looking for that. I feel like the people that are watching DM module guides for pre-established modules, they're typically doing it because they bought a product, which is anywhere between, they probably bought it anywhere between 30 to 50 bucks, right? And they're looking to use this product as much as possible. So try and assist people that are looking to use the product that they spent money on. Try and assist people on a way to run the adventure to the best that the adventure can be. I've seen several other DM's guides on adventure modules, not just for 5th edition, but for other systems as well. And I see a lot of times that there are people that show up and say, hey, this adventure sucks. We're changing every single little aspect about it. And I feel like a lot of people don't want that. I feel like that's the case. I feel like there's a reason why I got it, the views that I got, right? Ultimately. So all in all, conciseness, impact, suggestion, not demands. Like if you're gonna offer up some suggestions, I'm remembering in specifically, I'm trying to think in Rime the Frostmaiden in particular. I remember talking about an area, and when I talked about all the other like quests, I was like, oh, this quest is cool and all, but maybe you can change this little thing here and make it flow a little better. But then I remember there's like one specific part where it's a flat out TPK if you run it purely rules as written. And that's when I kind of lost it. I was like, okay, this sucks. You do have to change this. But other than that, like, I always try to spin it as much as like trying to run it as close to rules as written as possible. But ultimately, yeah, just make it enjoyable. And also, like, something to note is I'm looking at all my videos here, and I'm thinking, like, I'm remembering now, like, oh yeah, I used to try and keep everything to like a concise like 20 to 30 minutes. Not for every single one, mind you. I remember like right when it started with Tomb of Annihilation. I'm looking now and I see that there's a bunch of videos that have an incredibly long runtime. But try to keep it between 20 to 30 minutes, as I would say, as much as possible. You're probably never going to be purely like 100% on the mark in regards of various locations and places and whatnot, but keep it 20 to 30 minutes is probably for the best. I feel that that Fireball in Avernus, yeesh. Exactly, right? Like, someone somewhere didn't understand that level 2 characters going up against a character that can shoot a fireball is an auto TPK. Like, mind you, that's not just a pure auto TPK in a single fireball. There could be the chance that the party spreads about, but that fireball is an instant death to at least 1 or 2 people. And how 5e works is 5e has a death spiral where if you lose some people, you're going to lose more people, and you lose more and more people as it goes on. So it's absolutely ridiculous. Yes, always use as much of the book as possible. You will have to fluff stuff out and add filler to the weaker parts, but as a DM, I promise you'll be shocked on what people like in the adventure. Exactly, right? And how's it going, thick boy? There's a lot of great stuff in these adventures. Mind you, I put out the adventure module rankings that I did, and I will say I do not think that all of them are fantastic, but I do believe in my heart of hearts that every single adventure has something worthwhile running in it. Now, some of them you have to do a lot of work to make that adventure good, and some of them you got to do a little. Sometimes you got to do a little bit less to make that adventure good. Alrighty, so I'm doing my formatting here because hopefully, if I do not get distracted this week, I'm going to be putting out a playtest for my tabletop role-playing games. And yes, I did say plural. I'm going to be playtesting out not 1 but 2 of my tabletop role-playing game systems this week. Hopefully. I've got this one cooking, which is a big book. This book alone, I'm only on the player's book, and it's already 160 some odd pages, and I'm not even finished yet. Probably in total, it's going to be close to either 180 to 200. And that's just for the players. And then I'm also going to have the monster manual, and I'm also going to have a DM's guide as well. And of course, a whole bunch of other various adventures. But then my other system that I've got cooking is Fundamental Fantasy, and that one is a simple tabletop role-playing game system, which is supposed to emulate very simple D&D. And that one I just finished up, and it was only 34 pages. So I'm hoping to playtest out all those by the end of this week. Great, man. Love your Stride content. It's amazing help. No problem, Thick. That is why I made that stuff, because I wanted to help people. You know, it's amazing that Curse of Strahd came out over 10 years ago at this point, and it's still killing it. People keep on playing that thing. Nice name, Corey. Is there anything you've done in, I guess, the YouTube sphere that got your videos out there? Also, love your work you've done. Wizards of the Coast needs to hire you for 2024. I wish, McCloyf. I wish they would hire me. Like I've said before, I don't know if you heard, but I have gotten a bunch of people that are either blind, visually impaired, or ADD, ADHD, whatever. And a bunch of them have told me that my adventure module guides have helped them run the adventure, because for the visually impaired people, it, like, just speaking it out loud and talk about it so much allows people to, visualize it, right? And then for the ADD and ADHD people, it's great for people that want it on the background. It's great for people that are listening to it when they're driving on the way to and from work. It's great for the people that are at work and are totally bullshitting, but have me on in the background, right? And I pitched the idea to Wizards of the Coast. Hey, maybe you should, like, not necessarily me, but you should get someone to do some sort of either video guide series, or even just like a flat out audiobook of these books. That'd be awesome. Wizards of the Coast did not respond to me, so is what it is. Now, in regards of how I got my videos out there, here is what I did. When I started my videos, I did not. First off, yeah. So let me break down here. When I first started making my videos, I didn't record and then edit and then upload immediately. Like, that's not what I did. What I did was I recorded a bunch of things, and then I edited a bunch of things, and then once I understood a little bit more about how long it takes to record, how much to edit, in regards of all those various things, once I understood just a little bit of that, that is when I started recording in earnest. And then when I started recording in earnest, specifically looking at my Tomb of Annihilation series, I did not start releasing videos for that series until I had over half of the videos done. And the reason for that is because there's something that's very important when it comes to YouTube. YouTube has a whole bunch of algorithms going on. YouTube is getting close to perfected at this point in regards of where they're pushing their content, in regards of how they're analyzing all the content. Spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you right now, unfortunately, the whole Adventure Module Guide series is not good. Specifically, if you are going to label anything labeled Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, because YouTube does not like people making things that are Part 1, 2, or 3, because YouTube wants every single individual video to stand out on its own. Because if you have a 10-part video series, then the views are always going to trickle down less and less every single time. So you, one, do not label anything Part 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And two, you need to have a schedule. So there are some YouTubers out there that post up videos whenever they feel like it and it works for them. But for us losers down here in the pits, us people that are just clawing our way up to try and get these pennies, the only, you need to work out a rhythm. You need to have a certain theme. Your thumbnails and titles need to lead into one another, in a sense that if someone watches one of your videos, they need to be more inclined to watch the next video. You need to release on a schedule so people understand when your schedule is, and two, YouTube understands when your schedule is. So that right there, those are two big things. Another reason why my videos got traction is because I talked to people. So something that's very important is when you're starting off as a YouTuber, you are going to have the inclination that you want to climb the ladder, that you want to talk to the next person up, you want to collab with the next person, and siphon off some of their views. You want to throw your name out there some more, and that's all well and good. But you need to understand is there are a bunch of people that do not appreciate that. There's a bunch of people who do not appreciate being the rung on the ladder that people are always pulling on, right? So I would personally avoid, as much as possible, trying to talk to anybody I would avoid trying to talk to other YouTubers if it's obviously clear that you're trying to use them, because ultimately we know that when we're being used, right? Like that's just the truth of the matter. But one thing that does help is just interacting with people in the communities, specifically looking at the Discords and the subreddits for these adventure module guide series. Putting up your videos there will be good, so long as you follow the rules, right? So long as you regularly interact with people, so long as you're answering questions, so long as you're, talking to the moderators and keeping it good, it's all well and good. That's one reason why my videos elevated to the status that they were, specifically looking at Tomb of Annihilation and Rime of the Frost Maiden and Curse of Strahd, is because I regularly went to those Discords and subreddits and interacted with those people. And eventually, so long as your video guide series is good, people are going to start recommending them on their own. In fact, literally just today, I just saw on the subreddit for Rime of the Frost Maiden, even though all these years later, someone recommended one of my videos. And mind you, I've been incredibly busy and haven't been able to keep up with the whole social interaction, posting up to Discords and the Reddits and whatnot lately. But ultimately, people know when they're being sold a product. People know when they're, people know when you're just trying to sell yourself, right? So just own up to it. Know that if you go to the Discords and the subreddits and post up your videos and, offer suggestions and answer questions and engage and stuff, people know that you're selling yourself, but just own up to that and don't try and skirt around it. Just say, hey, I'm putting up these guides. I want to help people, this and that. Steven, hey, love your work. I'm running TOA right now and we are 4 sessions in, but I have trouble with the jungle hexcrawl part. How do I making it more fun and challenging for my PCs? So, Steven, the fundamental aspect of running a hexcrawl using 5th edition is as follows. What is the resource drain? Skirt. How's it going, Prof Poem? So, Steven, what is the challenge of a hexcrawl in 5e? Because if you run 5e purely rules as written, then they get into 10 combats in a day, and it's super scary and dangerous. But then they wake up the next day, and it's like literally nothing happened. They get all their spells back, they get all their features back, they get all their health back. It's like nothing happened, right? So, my question to you is, are you willing to amp up the difficulty? Are you willing to have a sort of resource teardown? Are you willing to change up the game's mechanics fundamentally? Or are you air quote married to 5e's mechanics? Because rules of written mechanics, I should say. Because if you are tied to the idea that no matter how many combats they get into in a day, they wake up the next day and it's like nothing happened, then the real challenge there is gone. I'm just going to tell you that right away, right? The only thing that could persist, because you do 20 damage to someone, they get 20 HP back the next day. The only way you could throw in any sort of challenge that lingers from day to day would be some sort of resource drain, right? Like it would have to be something along the lines of they catch diseases, or they do not get all their spell slots back, or their features back, or like running it purely rules as written, of course. The hex crawls in 5e just typically just don't work. Now, that being said, with some slight tweaking, some slight homebrew ruling, you can make the hex crawl challenging. For example, you could just get rid of the concept of a long rest, where you get all your HP back, and instead you use hit dice to get your HP back, and your hit dice only reset, X amount. You only get maybe, let's say like half of them or a quarter of them, and then when it comes to like spells, you could say like, oh, you only get like one spell slot back a day or something like that, right? And depending on where you adjust that dial, that's where the real challenge is going to be. Now, what I'm here to tell you is you don't have to necessarily make the hex crawl challenging for Tomb of Annihilation. You could make it that you could just make it not a hex crawl if you desire. You could just simply get rid of the idea of the hex crawl and just say, hey, where do you want to go, gang? Okay, gang, you want to start from the town and you want to go to, that hex over there. Okay, so as you're on your way over there, I'm going to roll it up. You get into one encounter, and that one encounter is going to last because we're not doing a hex crawl anymore. We're doing a point crawl. You start from the town and you go there, and we don't go through the minutia of checking for random monsters and rolling for weather and da-da-da, this and that. You could just get rid of that entirely. So, Steven, I'm going to pose you the question. 1, are you married to 5e's mechanics, rules as written? And 2, are you married to the hex crawl? Yes or no? Those questions are going to impact how you run the game. And more importantly, and also very importantly, it's going to affect how the game runs. It's going to affect what matters. It's going to affect the idea of what the adventure is all about. Is the adventure all about the hex crawl? Is the adventure all about the challenge? Is the adventure all about just exploring the jungle? Those questions are going to dictate how you run the hex crawl, or if you even run a hex crawl at all. So if you can answer me those questions, or pose them yourself, I guess, I would love to hear that, because I could help steer you in the right direction. Thanks a lot for the advice. I wouldn't ask this if you couldn't see. I've been subscribed to you for a year. I'm not some random trying to sap off of you. Much respect. No problem. No. So McCloy, so as I was saying, like in regards of like, don't like. I'll tell you this, McCloy. Don't go up to the Dungeon Dudes and Ginny D and be like, "Hey, I'm a new YouTuber. Collab with me right now." Like, don't do that. If you want to come to me for advice, I'm all for it. I've got no issue with it. But don't try and don't try and cling to the fame and success and try and sap off of it. Like, you just asked me those questions. That's not you sapping off of it at all whatsoever. Let's be real here. You're just asking me for advice. That's fine. But don't all of a sudden just like try and shoot to the moon and talk to the bigwigs and get the gravy chain rolling. You have to prove yourself first. Alrighty, so while that's going on, I'm working on my thing here. I'm gotta be doing this. Here we go. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Pure virtue. So, Pwn Dog, were you getting into Company of Heroes the other day? I didn't get to see the stream. I was busy, but I saw that Turin was playing Company of Heroes, and I figured you were probably with him. Also, I saw that Turin I saw Turn was trying out for a 4-point domination match in Warhammer. I'm genuinely curious how that's going to play out. Yeah, update is great. What'd they update? What did they update? I'm curious. I mean, my freaking nose is super itchy. Golly. Oh. Four new heavy tank battalion battle groups, one for each faction plus balance. Cool. I can't remember. I think your favorite faction was Afrika Korps, right? I'm trying to remember. Trying to remember. So for the record, I have not touched Company of Heroes 3. I played 1 and 2 a bit, but I did not touch Company of Heroes thrice. No, you like the Wehrmacht. Yeah. The Wehrmacht. Good old Company of Heroes. It's a shame that they didn't ever try and do Japan. Like, I feel like I can understand why it's more limiting, because it would just be purely it would just be purely, America and Russia versus Japan. But I feel like there could have been some fun things there. I'm married to the Hexcrawl because I ran COA as a first-time DM. My PCs are first-time players as well, and I really wanted to try Hexcrawl as a DM. I hope that answers. Alrighty, so Steven. So you're married to the Hexcrawl. The only way you can make the Hexcrawl matter is by making resources matter. So as a reminder, when you're looking at pure rules as written 5th edition, and this applies to both the 2014 rules and the 2024 rules, I'm just going to natively assume you're running the 2014 rules because that's what most people are running. The only way you can make the Hexcrawl matter is by imposing lingering effects, right? Once again, you get bitten by the T-Rex, you go down to 0 HP, you're on death's door, then all of a sudden next day, it's literally like nothing happened. You spend all of your spell slots, you burn through all of your features, you wake up the next day, and once again, you've got them all back, right? And 5e was not designed for the overland adventure. The only semblance of drainage in 5th edition is hit dice. Once again, purely as written. The only semblance of draining of any sort of resource is hit dice, because you only get half of your hit dice back. But that is not nearly enough to make it anywhere impactful where resource management from day to day matters. It just simply doesn't work. So what I'll tell you is this, is if you want to make the Hexcrawl matter, you need to adjust either the HP and or the feature return from long rest. That's the only way it's going to work. If you want there to be a semblance of, oh hey, danger lurks around every corner in the jungle, every hex you go to, there could be, once again, once again, we're looking at purely as written here. When you look at Tomb of Annihilation, there is a potential for 3 encounters in a day. Mind you, purely as written, you obviously can change that up to whatever your heart's desire, right? But, those 3 encounters don't matter if you wake up the next day. Because 5e, you're supposed to get into like 6 to 8 encounters in an adventuring day. So, several positions I could give you is, once again, you get you don't get your HP back at all. It could just be tied purely to your hit dice. That right there adds the element of, oh hey, it's cool that we sleep, but I use my hit dice and then, oh crap, I'm running out of hit dice here, and that affects the adventuring day too because, I don't get my, I've only got so many for my short rest too, right? Another big thing is, of course, the features. I don't know what the makeup is of your group, but if they're more spellcaster heavy, which, spoiler alert, most 5e groups are, because 5e, 9/12 of the classes are spellcasters. You might want to implement some sort of thing where instead of them getting back all of their spell slots, maybe they get, heck if I know, maybe like a D4 of their spell slots back, a D6 of their spell slots back. There's a whole bunch of various things you can do there to really add an element of variety and danger to the hex crawl by simply adjusting those little knobs and just those little tweaks here and there and everywhere. They go an incredibly long way. So, once again, implementing things like that is one way to work it. 2, another way that the hex crawl matters is your other resources. So, a big thing on Tomb of Annihilation is money. So, it doesn't, like, if you do a very cursory glance on Tomb of Annihilation, you can see that, like, oh, it's just another 5th edition adventure. But when you actually get down to the nitty gritty of it, money is a big deal because you need money to hire a guide. And that guide is typically 5 gold a day. That adds up incredibly quickly. So that right there can impose your players to try and go to dungeons or to move places that they really shouldn't because they want to save on money. So re-emphasizing the expenditure of money. Number 2 as well is the Flaming Fist. The Flaming Fist, 1, they demand that you get that Charter of Exploration. But 2, even if you do get that Charter of Exploration, they still take half of your swag when you return from the jungles. So right there, that imposes this thing of, oh, we need to get a lot of loot because the Flaming Fist is going to take half of it, right? Not that this has anything to do with TOA, but I like the arena mechanic in our campaign. So, Propone, funny enough, if you might remember, I actually ran the arena in Tomb of Annihilation as well, right? That was a way for players to spend time and money in town, was various activities, one of which was the arena, where they could earn money to fuel their adventures, right? But thank you. I'm just fun little things like my arena system where it encourages you to do things and then you get bonuses and advantages and whatever. Like that's a good way to not just have it boil down to I rolled a hit, right? Like just adding a little bit of variety here and there, right? So Steven, other than that, other big things in regards to making the hex crawl matter is the disease, as I mentioned earlier before. If any player catches any disease for any reason, because it's raining or, because they get hit by a certain creature or because they, whatever the case may be, them catching a disease is impactful of the hex crawl because whatever disease they have, maybe that affects them to certain degrees. Maybe it reduces their, stats. Maybe it is... maybe it's affects their abilities, it affects their features, their HP goes down, their AC goes down, their movement goes down, they whole bunch of things they're in. But ultimately, hex crawls are engaging when there is risk involved, and you are going to have to put in that risk to make it matter. you are going to have to fundamentally change how 5e works. Once again, 5e purely as written, in order to make it impactful. Now, Steven, if you want to be super duper pedantic and look at specifically ways to run it as close to rules written as possible, you could look at the DMG. The DMG offers a very simple, yet a very effective way to change up how the system works, in that you do gritty realism. Gritty realism is as follows. Every 8 hours of rest is a short rest, and a whole week is needed for a long rest. What that rule set makes it so is that if you run that system, then when they go out into the jungles, hey, when you go out into the jungles, you're only getting a short rest every night. So, hey, for all you spellcasters that need a long rest to use your big boy spells, maybe you start using your cantrips a lot more often, huh? Maybe for the people that get a whole bunch of their features back on a short rest, maybe they start plugging those a lot more. And what that means is you go out into the jungle, you only get a short rest. You only get the short rest. You're only using your hit dice. You got to be careful with your resources. Everyone's using up their cantrips, but when they get into some real danger, that's when they start using their features. And then once they push out far enough, they've used up too many resources, that's when they head back to town. And then once you head back to town, then you get that long rest in for a week. And then boom, you create that cycle. That cycle of exploring out of the jungles. You get some loot. You get some magical items. You get the gold. You come back to town. You level up. You spend all your money. You go out again. And then this time you explore somewhere else. And then that creates that fun dynamic element of a hex crawl where your players are earning their way through the adventure. Your players are truly crawling through these hexes and earning what they get. That right there is a fantastic way to go about it. I'm not like the crowd favorite thing, which is not part of 2A. Yeah. My group only have one spellcaster out of 6 players? Wow. Because my one hated that spellcasters only can cast one spell lot per turn. What? Okay, so because my hated that spellcasters only can cast one spell a lot per turn, and the word spread and find that funny. I hope that I'm not wrong. So in regards of, if you're trying to say that in a round of combat, you can only, like on your turn, you can only cast one spell, that is the correct statement. But there are some cheating things that allow you to do that. Like, I know the sorcerer allows you to cast like a spell as like a bonus action, and then you can, then you can do something as an action or whatever. But if you're trying to apply something else, like only one spell can be cast per the party per turn, that's definitely wrong. Mind you, I think that's a fun way to maybe approach it, and maybe that'll limit the supremacy of spellcasters, but is what it is. Alrighty. So actually, if you wanna be super crazy here, you can take a look at my system here. In my system, when how initiative works is, when you go to cast a spell, you're going to be the last person to play in the round of combat. So in my system here, this isn't 5e obviously, but is what it is. In this system, there is a move melee phase, there is a missile phase, and then there's a magic phase, and it goes in that order. So if you declare that you're casting a spell for that round, then you're acting last because spells are OP. I'm at one spell slot. Sorry for my bad English. It's all good. You can only cast one spell slot a turn. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hey, Potent. Loriander, #1 subscriber. on my channel here. Lorander, the first subscriber to my channel. How is it hanging? How's it going? Going over my tabletop role-playing game right now. And talking about some adventure here. But in regards of one spell slot turn, if you're meaning that, I'm trying to think of like what you mean by, cause my one hated that spellcasters only cast one spell slot per turn. Hanging well, that's good. If it's trying to imply that like it takes 2 turns to cast a second level spell, that's definitely wrong. But I don't know if that's what you're implying there. Lorander, I'm fan-frickin-tastic. I am fan-frickin-tastic. Just going over my Uber document here. This is my frickin' player's guide, and my god, is there so much. I've got so much working for the system. I'm going to be hopefully playtesting the system this week, and then I'll start, once I do, then I'll start being able to try and get this thing kickstarted, because I want beautiful art made for this bad boy. One thing I'm really loving about my system here, because I love tooting my own horn apparently, is when you have a spell that truly is affected by your alignment. Because right here I've got the spell which is create an inspiring haven that heals 3d6 HP to allies if you are super good. However, if you're super evil, then you conjure horrific nightmare, dealing 3d6 damage to enemies each round, right? I should dealing 3d6 damage to enemies. I can already tell it's no, not each round. That's too OP. The system is 90% done. I would say so. In regards of the system, it's like, so the skeleton of the system is there. I just need to flesh it out a little bit more in regards of, I want to add a few more classes, even though I've already got a bunch of classes. I've got like 22 classes for the system. And mind you, each of those classes, they, you know, depending on the, depending on your, there's no subclass in the system, but depending on your alignment, you get several other features. So your alignment is somewhat sort of your subclass. I want to add a few more classes, and then I also need to fix up the spells, and I need to fix up a whole bunch of presentation. And then I think that's pretty much it. Like, I feel like this game is pretty close to being able to be put out there for consumption. However, this was all written by me, so there's probably a bunch that I'm overlooking in regards of, one, I know for a fact that there's a whole bunch of imbalance. Probably a whole bunch of OP things and underpower things, but hey, I'm going to I'm not the greatest eye for that. I'm just gonna let other people tell me, and then I'll look at it objectively and be like, oh hey, that's actually super good, or oh hey, that's super bad. Oh, what did I just do? Oh. Let me tell you what, my most used macro for this whole thing has been bolding and Control Z. Those are my 2 most used macros. What about the world? Has it been created yet? No. So I'm going to be flushing out the world. I'm not going to be flushing out the world through the player's guide at all. Really? it'll be fleshed out more through the monsters and through the DM's guide. And I do already have several adventures lined up for this system, so the world will sort of be fleshed out through that. But the idea behind this world is that this world is like a fairy tale, themed world. Simple as that. And my idea in my head is like I'm gonna release several expansions. So like first and foremost, the major expansions are gonna be things like the Enchanted Forest, because obviously us Westerners automatically associate fairy tales with forest. But then, I'm going to add a few other things too. Like I want to add some desert biomes. I want to add some Arctic biomes. I want to add some other things like that. Monster Manual, yeah, there will be Monster Manual. So there's going to be 3 core books. There's going to be the Player's Guide, Monster Manual, and DM's Guide. God themed? I don't know about... I mean, there definitely will be gods in the system, for sure. Like, there'll be religions and stuff like that. And speaking of religion, now I'm working on the priest spell list here. And once again, I'm just loving I'm just loving the idea of you have a whole bunch of spells in your spell list that are always going to do the same thing. Like if you are a priest and you take Sacred Flame, it is going to do the 1d8 damage, right? But if you take Turn the Tide, then depending on your alignment, oh hey, if you are a virtuous guy, then allies roll with upper hand on saving throws. Oh, but if you are dark, then foes take a -1 on attack rolls. I love having this system where your alignment matters. It changes up your playstyle so much. It's so like fulfilling to me. It really is. Making alignment matter and making, even if you play the same class over and over, your alignment dictates your playstyle. Like, God, it's so good. So good. I'm running 5e 2024, and it says that you only can use 1 spell slot per round, but it could be wrong. I believe that to be the case. So I think the idea is you can use, like, if you have an action spell, it's typically going to be like, a level spell thing. And then if you have one of the minor ways to do it, you could use a bonus action to cast a cantrip. I believe that to be the case, purely rules as written. But mind you, those are fringe cases anyway, so is what it is. Will there be actual gods behind the religion? I'd assume so. Haven't really delved too deep into the idea of the religion of this system, or the religions of the system, I should say. But probably should start thinking about that once I start making my way over to making the DMG and stuff. But right now I've been consumed with this player's handbook. Ugh, that looks terrible. What the heck? Why is this like this? Why are you like this? I can see why it's like... Okay, what's going on here? Alrighty. Is it finally over? I want you to be gone. There we go. Perfect. Also, I noticed it's over here too. What the... Ugh. Hate when there's like too much of a gap caused by like a non-existent. There we go. Nope. Back. Ah, so annoying. How do I get rid of this? On this side. Delete there. It's just like, it really wants to create a freaking, like, too much of a gap for some reason. There we go. Perfect. I solved it. Is there a point scaling system in alignment? Doing specific actions give you point toward a specific line? Yes, Lorander. So you start off you start off around 0. Like you start off at 0, I should say, and then depending on your choices at character creation, you either go up or down some. And the idea is alignment can go up to a +10 or a -10. So you've got like a 20-point system to work with. If you do bad things, you get negative alignment. If you do good things, you get a positive alignment. And the score, there's five things to the score. There is, at the tippy top, you've got pure virtue. Then you've got virtuous, balanced, dark, and wicked. Right now, currently, it's as follows. Pure virtue is 7+. Virtuous is 3 to 6. And then balanced is 2 to -2. Dark is -3 to -6, and then wicked is -7+. And yeah, depending on your actions, your alignment goes up and down, and that will affect some of the abilities that you have. And it will affect magical items, and it'll affect features and all that fun stuff. Thanks for your advice. And I have another question. When you run your games, do you run milestone or manual XP, or a mix of both? I run various games using various mechanics. So, what I'll tell you this, Steven, is if you are running if you are running Milestone, specifically for Tomb of Annihilation, I would probably have those tied to landmarks. I would probably just be very blatant with my players and tell them, hey, if you conquer X dungeons, if you conquer, if you reach these places, then you get a level up. Versus if you do XP, one thing I'll tell you this is I do not like 5e's XP system at all. I do not like the XP system at all. One, I do not think XP should be tied purely just to killing monsters. I think there should be a lot more to XP. I do not like the XP system at all. There's plenty of other awesome XP systems out there. I do not think 5e's is one of them. But that being said, once again, if it's Milestone, I'd be very blatant and obvious, telling my players, oh hey, when you conquer this area, this dungeon, this boss, whatever, then you get a level up. But if it is tied to XP, I would have the XP tied to what you want your players to do. Which, once again, I'd be very blatant about. If you want the game to be about getting gold, then tell your players, hey, for every 1 gold you find, you get 1 XP. And that tells your players that they should find gold, right? If they find 1,000 gold, they get 1,000 XP, right? Like that informs the players on how they are going to play the game. Looking at Tomb of Annihilation, if you wanted there to be an XP system that wasn't just purely tied to killing monsters, you can once again have it be, oh hey, every hex you explore and go through, that's 50 XP or something along those lines, right? You could have a system like that. Whether it be Milestone or experience, make it enforce the way you want your players to play. I personally do not like games that are 100% all about killing monsters. And that's why I never run games anymore. I used to run games like this, but not anymore. I do not want to run games where the XP is purely tied to killing monsters. Kind of like Humanity and Vampire Masquerade, exactly. Horrible XP system, D&D. XP gained from killing stuff just pushes the system into action system and not a roleplay system. Exactly. Right. if you have the XP tied to and beyond just having the static things of like, oh hey, you 1 gold for 1 XP, or one, or for every hex is 50 XP or whatever. Also, in giving XP bonuses for things that they accomplish is great too. Like it could be, oh hey, you saved these people from getting attacked, you get plus 50 XP, right? And when you tell your players that when they perform a certain function, when they do a certain thing, that they get XP for it, that's once again further re-incentivizing how they want to play the game, or how they should play the game, because they want that sweet XP. They're going to do the things that get them the XP. Alrighty, got that. So it's funny. I've been on this bend now of creating tabletop role playing game systems, because I've actually got two I've got cooking up, and I'm gonna be playtesting them both this week. But I'm even working on even more. I've got two others I've also got some decent amount of work done on, and it's really funny now that I've gotten onto the side of tabletop role playing game design. One thing I'm really seeing is looking at specifically 5e's Magic Supremacy. In 5e's Magic Supremacy, one of the reasons why that exists is because it is so easy to create content for spellcasters. So, specifically, it's super easy to create more content for them. So, when you compare the fighter to the wizard in 5e, for example, you pump out the book, and it's got the fighter, and it's got the wizard, and they both have equal amount of features. The fighter's got all their subclasses and their features on their thing, and the wizard, they get all their spells. But then when you go to put out new content, okay, man, it's super easy to pump out a bunch of new spells. Oh, but wait, how do we make more content for the fighter? That is an issue. Right? Because you could always be like, oh hey, you can pump out more subclasses. Well, you can always do the same for the wizard, and you typically do, right? And so there's a problem in the fundamental game design of 5e, where it is super duper easy to pump out more content for the spellcasters, and it becomes increasingly more difficult to pump out more material for the fighters. It's been very, very interesting as I'm making these systems. I'm considering those options. I'm considering, man, if I want to add to this system, how do I add to this system, right? And thankfully, I've actually thought of several ways in order to do that. With my system, all classes have a class resource, so I could ultimately just give all the non-spellcasters more ways to use their class resources down the line. And I'm also thinking of a few other things as well. Thanks for the DM advices, and it's noted. Good night from Denmark. Hey, Steven. Pleasure to help. Hope your Tomb of Annihilation does well. Tell me all about it later on, whether that be in stream or in the Discord or on one of my TOA videos. Tell me all about how your adventure is going. I want to hear it. But yeah, it's been very eye opening being on the creative side of things. It's very easy to judge and be like, oh hey, this system's good, this system's bad, just as a consumer. But once you get down to the nitty gritty of it, I'm sitting there thinking like, man, like this is fundamentally super strong, or like this is just blatantly like really good game design. And then other times I'm looking at other things and I'm like, man, this is garbage. Like, I can't believe they decided to go with this instead of something else, Divine Beacon. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Thanks, No Fun. Got to jump into a game, but I had fun listening to the stream. How's it going, Justin? Hope you do good in your dragon slaying adventures there. And also, as mentioned before, I know for a fact I'm gonna have like a month free coming up here, so I'm gonna be running a bunch of games and putting in a huge dent into the West Marches. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. I'm sitting here doing this now, and I'm thinking, like, man, is there... Like, I was thinking, like, man, I wonder if there's a simple way to just simply bolden every single instance of the words pure virtue, virtue is balanced, dark, and wicked. But then that would affect a whole bunch of other things throughout the document. So now I'm sitting here thinking, like, man, is there a way where you can section out, like, just a portion of it and do it? Like, I'm gonna take like a class on InDesign here to try and figure that out. Because right now doing it manually kind of sucks. Is what it is, though. And I'm honestly seeing why so many people have editors, because this is just time consuming. Yep, I'll keep an eye out. Heck yeah. Alrighty, that's all the runes. And did I already bolden all these? Oh, thank the maker. I think I have. Looks like it. Woo-wee. However, one thing I'm now noticing is for every single spell that I have got the range boldened, I got the duration boldened, but then I've got effect. And I wrote down effect, like just in regards of like I've range, duration, then effect, but then like ultimately I'm sitting here thinking, do I need to write effect every single time? Probably not. So I'm gonna leave it as is for now during the playtest. But I'm thinking I'm gonna be asking a bunch of people some feedback on regards of like visual representation, or presentation, not representation, visual presentation, and I'm gonna see if people care about that or not. But ultimately, I'm probably just going to get rid of the text of effect on every single spell here. That might have to be the play. The witch spell list. She's a witch, she is. Also, for the witch, I wanted every single spellcaster in this game to operate fundamentally differently. So some of them use Vancian magic, and some of them use spell points. The witch in particular, she uses spell points. I say she. You can be whatever you want as a witch. I don't care. But ultimately, I'm sitting here, and I was thinking, like, how do I make the witch spellcasting different from all the others? And one thing I was thinking of is limiting some of their spells that they're alignment based, but then having others that are, you know, not. Cause I was just thinking like maybe that could be a way, like Cauldron Bubble, pure virtue and virtuous will operate the same. Versus when you look at the envenomed words, pure virtue and then virtuous, they operate differently. But ultimately, I'm on the fence about how to make the witch spellcasting unique. But ultimately, they do have a lot going on for them. So, is what it is. Also, so I'm going through here. I see left. That's from ages past. Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Did I not leave spaces there? No, I did. Alrighty. When do they get? I gave the witch a spell that lets him fly on a broom. Where the frick is that? Is that level 3? Probably level 3. Witch's fly. Witch's flight. There we go. Take the skies on a broomstick or magical winds. Give a broomstick a flying speed of 60 feet for 1 hour. Only the caster can pilot the broomstick. See, that's like right there. I feel like that's so much more engaging of a spell than just you have a flying speed of 60 feet. I think ultimately for me when it comes to a tabletop role-playing fantasy game is I want the magic to be magical. And unfortunately, once you lay down the rules of spells, they no longer are magical in a sense. Like, you know exactly what they do. But with my system, I'm hopefully adding just that little bit of magic in regards of the alignment stuff. I'm really hoping that the alignment stuff really just like kicks it up just a little bit. Just a little. Also, do I have Witchfire twice? Witchfire. Oh no, something I'm gonna ask everyone, but I'm probably gonna have to do this just in my own volition anyway. I'm probably gonna have to what do you call that thing? I'm probably gonna have to oh my god, alphabetize all the spells in a specific spell list. I totally was blanking on that just now, but now that I'm looking at it, it probably makes sense that I alphabetize spells. Gosh darn it, that is going to take ages. I can already tell. What a pain. Probably for the best, though. Ugh. Yikerinos. Once again, this is why you get editors instead of doing everything yourself. Yikes. So I have Witchfire right there. Okay, I was just seeing things. I thought I had Witchfire twice. Okay. Oh, man. I'm going to have to alphabetize every single spell. I've got so many spellcasters. Actually, I don't have that many spellcasters. I've got a lot of spells, though. So I've got 4 spellcasters. I've got... scrolling through my freaking list here. So I've got the Enchanter, the Priest. I've got the Runesmith. However, they're not a full spell caster. Their whole spell list, or Erko spell list, which is runes, it all is just on this one page, which is looking a bit too busy. I'm probably gonna have to change some things up here. I've got the Occultist and then the Witch. So not too many spell casters, but man, I am seriously going to have to... I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to take that plunge and alphabetize them all. So here's another thing is the equipment list. My God, is the equipment list going to freaking take up some space. Holy crap. I have not bothered putting all these into tables yet, but I know I'm going to have to. Super duper annoying. But that's for future me, that loser. Also, in regards of the weight mechanic in the system, very simple. Every single item is labeled anywhere between 0 to 3 points. If it's super heavy, it's 3, or maybe even more. That's the end of story. Keeping things relatively simple. Now, the armor is where this differentiates itself from 5e, because the armor... One, we got a bunch of these armors. But two, the armor gives you damage reduction. So light armor gives you 1 damage reduction. You take 3 points of damage. You're wearing a light armor. Then you take 2 points of damage. We got the medium armors, which give you 2 DR. And then the heavy armors, which give you 3 DR. We've also got not 1, not 2, but 3 shields for your viewing pleasure here. Shields... come in the variety of a buckler shield, a round shield, and a kite shield. A buckler shield gives you a -1 AC against missiles. So basically, it's just effectively it's a +1 against missile, and that's it, or against melee, and that's it. The round shield, which is normal, however, it does way more. And then the heaviest one gives you a +1 AC against missiles. So it's effectively a +1 against melee, +2 against missiles. Boom. But it weighs more. So, is what it is. Then the weapons. So, I was working on my other TTRPG, and then I realized that I want to make the weapons a bit more special in the system. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving weapons crits and exploding dice. And I'm going to be marking up like what these features do. So I'm going to be adjusting that later on. So for example, to give you like an insight here, what I would do is to play around with the crits. I would do something like, oh hey, the sword crits on a 19 or 20. The two-handed sword, when you roll a crit, you do 3d10 damage. And like I'd play with all those various bits. Add some variety therein. Checks and saves. I'm gonna have to be adding a lot more. Fill this out. Time tracking. I could probably add this elsewhere. It's way too much space for that. Encumbrance, so a whole bunch of different ways to handle that. How encounters work, the dungeon phase, the combat phase, which I'm really, really happy about. Combat, I'll tell you this. I feel like I am close to done with individual initiative. Andreas, yes, 3 shields. I have done the same in my own 5e project, made it swashbuckler, round shield, and tower shield. Heck yeah. Love it. So, I am close to done, if not completely done, with individual initiative when it comes to tabletop role-playing game systems. I feel like individual initiative takes, 1, too much time, and 2, doesn't do enough to justify itself in a lot of tabletop role-playing game systems. So, for example, in 5e, when you've got an individual initiative, right? And think of the design space of initiative, right? There is a bunch of things you could potentially do with it, but all it does in 5e is, or the only place, like once again, as I'm analyzing, as I'm creating systems, I'm sitting here thinking of the design space of systems. The design space of 5e gave it that your dexterity affects your initiative score. There are several subclasses which give you a initiative bonus tied to another stat. Like there's one that deals with intelligence, gives you a plus to your initiative. There's one that gives you a charisma bonus to your initiative. There is one feat that gives you initiative bonus, and then that's it, right? And I feel like there could be just the design space for initiative is massive in systems. In fact, like I am creating 4 systems right now. I'm spreading myself really thin, but one of my systems is your initiative is a deck system, and like you draw cards, and depending on your class, you can draw more cards, you can swap cards, you can, flip the card. There's a whole, like, that design space is interesting. But individual initiative for 5e is not interesting because you roll it up once, you're stuck in your initiative forever and all the time until someone's dead. Until one side is dead. So when I sat here and created this system, I thought to myself, okay, how do I make initiative interesting? Well, it's really simple. I break it up into 3 phases. You got the move melee phase, the missile phase, and the magic phase. And it goes in that order. If you want to declare a spell, if you want to cast a spell, you have to declare it. And that's very impactful because spells are big, right? Spells are combat enders. Spells are things that shut down enemies. Spells are absolutely obtrusive to the environment. So the only way to balance that out, that magic is OP, is they go last in the round. So you start off, you roll initiative. It's a group-based initiative, and you can only act in one of the 3 phases. So if you have a party of 6, you could be like, oh, hey, we got 3 melee people. Okay, they're going to go in the move melee phase. We got 2 people that are shooting, so they're going to go in the missile phase. And then we got 1 person who's casting magic. They're obviously going in the magic phase. And then you go. You roll a d10. Whichever side wins, whoever is acting the move melee phase goes. And then the other side goes. And then you roll initiative once again for the missile phase. Alrighty, you win again. You guys go first. You shoot, and then they shoot. And then the magic phase. Oh, hey, you guys lost initiative. Their magic goes off. Right? And right there, just adding something to that initiative system both breaks it up and opens up the design space for more. And also, very importantly, is it adds the layer of strategy to the game that initiative once again doesn't allow to have because you can't plan out your initiative. You just roll once. That's the end of the story. Instead of going last, spell effects could just be moved to end of the round phase. That's essentially what these are. Is in this system anyway. Is you're acting last. And I think that's good because that allows the unsung heroes of parties, which are melee people, to act first and foremost. It allows people that act in range, which I find of the 3 dichotomies of melee, missile, and magic, I find that typically missile is the least used amongst most people I see. I find that most people don't like build bow builds as much as melee builds or magic builds. I typically see that missiles is the least used. So giving them their own thing, their own phase to act in, hopefully that encourages more. And then magic goes last. Screw you, magic. Alrighty. Other things I'm working on here is I've got 2 ideas for the system in regards of how overland travel is going to operate. And both of them are going to be in the core system here. One of them is going to be the mechanical one, where you get a certain amount of travel points, and then you travel around, and that costs you points. But then I've got another system in here, which is the... Oh, goodness. Am I back? Am I alive? Okay. Had a hiccup there for some reason. Wonder what the heck's going on. Here we go. Perfect. I'm back. So, so the idea of the Path in the Wild is you've got this mechanical system where you've got travel points and you travel around and that costs you points, and you can lose points for the weather, or you gain points because of features. You lose points because whatever, right? And that adds the mechanical aspect of traveling around, of exploration. But then the other simple one of when you just if you're running a game where you want travel to be abstract, you simply just tell the DM, hey, we want to get to this location, and the DM simply says to you, hey, do you want to take the path or do you want to take the wild? If you take the path, it's going to take longer, but it's safer. But if you want to get there quicker, then you're going to go through the wild. Boom. And that adds some elements there. Like it could be, oh, hey, you take the path, and along the way you meet a kindly old lady on the road. You take the wild, oh, hey, you get jumped by, a manticore, right? Other things I'm working on: exhaustion, falling heat, swimming, gold, death and dying. My death and dying is pretty simple. My death and dying is when you reach 0 HP. Every single round, you roll a d10. On a 1 or 2, you're dead. If you are brought back up, you're brought back up. And if you keep on getting knocked out, then your chance of dying increases by 1. So if you're knocked out, and then you got to roll roll a d10 on 1 or 2, you're dead. But then if you get back up that same day and are knocked down again, then you now die on a 1, 2, or 3. And if you get knocked down again, it's a 1, 2, or 3, or 4, et cetera, et cetera. Things like that. Rest mechanic. You get your features back piecemeal through small increments of HP or spell slots and spell points, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah. That is, oh my god, so many pages. 163 pages. Not all of them are full, but I mean, a lot of them are. I got a lot of crap here. A lot going on. Oh, goodness gracious. So yeah, I feel like I've got almost everything I need done to start playtesting this, so I can start pumping this out to people. I had to take a look back. I've got a list here. So one thing is I'm gonna hyperlink everything. Everything's gonna be hyperlinked. On every single page, there's gonna be a hyperlink that takes you back to the table of contents, and then from that table of contents, there is going to be hyperlinks to every single page of relevancy. I know the feeling. I'm on about 500 pages of my own. I'm wondering if you had made any rules about crafting. Not yet, no. I'm ultimately probably not going to have any hardcore rules on crafting, purely because, like, I don't want the system to be about crafting. Like, I've got a system in mind where crafting does matter. Like it'll be like a system where you eat in the dungeon, and like the whole idea is whatever monsters you eat, you craft them up to give you various bonuses, a la Dungeon Meshi. I've got that idea in mind for that system, but for this system, I feel like crafting would get too in the way of the adventure that I'm trying to tell here. Also, 500 pages, that's a lot. Mamma mia. Mamma mia. Yeah, I'm. Yeah, I think by hopefully this Friday, I'll put this out to some people and get their feedback. I need feedback on both the mechanical side of things and the presentation side of things. Like, for example, being for this Origins here, I've got, core ability bonus, trait, alignment, health, and then lore. But then for the backgrounds, I didn't know what I was going to put. Am I going to put core ability bonus, ability score, alignment, feature, lore? I've got a. I'm curious about that. What people like the most. Um, yeah, I feel like I got to do something with these gosh darn fates though. These things take up a lot. I reworked the entire SRD and added my own homebrew as well. I would love it if you ever want to give it a quick view. Made my own 5.5 in a sense. Sure. Ultimately, what I'll say though is so if you're watching a whole bunch of other D&D YouTubers, you see that a bunch of them are kind of fed up with D&D to some extent. There might come a time where you go to make a system and then you're realizing that you should just make your own system instead of making D&D. Just make your own system because your own system probably gives you more of what you want. Yeah. Um. Any way to change that? Ugh. I get that a lot. I mean, ultimately, that's what it is. It is something. I made a video about this a little while ago. I'll send you a link on my project on Discord if that's okay with you. Yeah, I've been watching your TOA guides on repeat, and I love the help you've given me. I also made a cool map to show you. Hell yeah. So, I made a video about this a little while ago, but ultimately, tabletop role playing game systems are vehicles. Not all vehicles are built equally. Not all of them serve the same function. Not all of them serve the same purpose. They do different things. Work with the system to do what it does well. Don't put the minivan in the drag race. Don't put the drag racer to tow the U-Haul, right? Ultimately, like 5e does what it does. It tells a high octane action adventuring day. It works as a superhero fill-in of fantasy, but ultimately, I was guilty of this for a long time. I tried making 5e something it wasn't, and then ultimately I just realized, oh hey, I should just play other systems to get a certain type of feel, tone, feel, theme, and setting, And now I'm on the trend of creating my own systems to get my own tone, feel, themes, and settings out of certain adventures. Is what it is. Oh my lord! I am now just now realizing. Yeah, I'm realizing something I forgot. I believe I do not have a what do you call that thing? I do not believe I have I don't have it listed anywhere in regards of what level you get your spells for the spellcasters. Oh, thank goodness I remembered that. Yeah, I'm totally blanking. I need to add that for surezies. Um, where's my? Here we go. What am I doing? I should just create a new freaking block here. Yeah, just create a new one. Boom, boom. What the? Yeah, I need to add a block for when spellcasters learn their spells. That is very, very important. So in my system, you peak at level 14 and you get up to 6 level spell slots. So yeah, let me insert. So I need level and then the 6, so I need 7 columns, and then rows will be 15. I knew that was going to look ugly as sin. I should have hashed it out a little more. Actually, what do other similar systems look like in regards of the spell table? I need to know. I need to know what looks good or not. Click. Here we go. Man, they have it on one table there. I'll try it. I'll try it out on one here, but if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Oh, it's got a freaking header page. Gosh darn it. Oh well. Oh well. And bold. Oh, that's right. Every single. Oh, so annoying. Make it bold. So we've got level. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And I can delete this last one. I want to say it's control back. Yep, perfect. Do I bold the numbers too? I think I do. I think I bold these numbers. Boom, 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 boom. Probably bolden up those hash marks too. They're a little bit tiny. Oh, I need to make these the color tables. They're alternating column. No, I need strokes and fills. Here we go. First off, none and cell fill will be my color. Oh, snarkies. No, it's not there. None. Table options. Alternating pattern every other row. Boom. Ugh. What? Oh, here we go. Ah, no, not that one. Is it the cell options? Yeah, cell fill. Here we go. Black. No. That doesn't. Row graphic. Alternating fills. Here we go. Gosh darn, it takes forever to find what I want. Here we go. Why do these colors look different? Is that not the same color? What the heck did I just click? Strokes. No graphic. Nope. Oh my gosh. Alrighty. Alternating fills. Here we go. That's the color. That's what I wanted. Thank the maker. Alrighty. Yeah, I think those are way too baby. Way too small. The bold doesn't really help out, though. Oh, well. It helps a little. It helps a little. Might have to do something else for the fill on that. What am I doing? I can just do this. All right, I sent you the text since I'm from Denmark. It's about 2 a.m. here. I've had several people from Denmark today. That's funny. So I should head out to bed, but it was great watching a stream for a while. I do hope you like what I have to send. Absolutely. I'll take a look at it. Alrighty. Boom, 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 boom. So 5, you get 3. When do you unlock? So it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, so it's not until level 11 that you get your 6th level spell slots. Got it. I understand. Thanks, man. Have a good one. You too. You too, you too. But I've been streaming for a few hours, and I've pointed out something that needed drastic attention. But like I said, hopefully by Friday, I'll be able to pump out some play test for all my stuff. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. Okay. Good stuff. Alrighty. Well, that I think is going to do it for me today. Man, freaking OBS just died on me right there. Yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, for doing all that fun stuff. But that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned. Looking forward to all the good stuff I've got coming up. Like I said, I think by in 2 or 3 weeks' time, I'll be able to run a whole bunch of games. So check out the Discord for all the public games that I run. And see you next time.